What's up, guys? Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand podcast. This week, I have my good friend Gabe Coyne from Stix Golf. You guys have heard of Stix. They're a real disruptor right now when it comes to the golf club set and the golf club industry. So I'm really excited to have them on the show to find out kind of how they started, where they're going, what's important to them, and what's new. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So where are you located?
West suburbs of Chicago. Most people tell me I'm not allowed to say I'm from Chicago. I gotta say I'm from the suburbs. So I'm out in St. Charles.
Yeah, because if you're like, oh, you're not from Chicago, that's the suburbs. Especially when you're in
Yeah.
Chicago, people act like that.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to like definitively tell people where you're from when you're in Chicago.
Yeah. Originally, I'm from Seattle, but out in Chicago for the last 5 years.
And do you love Chicago? I love Chicago. I miss it.
I do. Yeah. I don't make it into the city that often, but love it out here in the suburbs. Lots of nice golf courses, good schools for the kids. Live in the
So
suburban dream.
are you a professional golfer?
Not even close. Not
What do
even
you
close.
shoot normally?
Well, last year, I'd been golfing for 20 years when I started Stix, and I was never very good. Actually, I got cut from the baseball team freshman year of high school, so I went and joined the golf team. And I've been golfing for a little bit, but I golfed for 20 years before I started Stix. But it was last year, kind of a year into Stix, that my handicap, I didn't even have a handicap. I didn't track it. So I started tracking it, and I was a 27. And I golfed a lot last year and got down to a 12. And this year I haven't golfed a lot, and I'm probably, somewhere in between those two. Maybe I'm about an 18 right now.
That's
Having not
good.
gotten a lot of reps.
I mean, in my mind, like I thought I was better than I was. And what happens is when you like really keep your score and you like don't cheat, right?
Right.
Whatever that is. Okay.
When you
Like
count all your strokes.
yeah, when you scratch exactly, you realize how shitty you really are. And so like I think at the beginning of summer I was like a 23 in like May.
Okay.
But I never even had a handicap. So I was just like
Yeah.
when you're younger, I felt like, I shot in the 80s most of the time, but as you get older and have family and kids and work, like you don't play golf all that much. So essentially it just goes up, but you don't realize how bad you are. But I think like now I'm a 21, so like in 4 months. And so I think
Okay.
you really, for guys out there, I think if you can like just focus on like, okay, let's be honest, where are you really at? And then focus on getting better, like you can totally do it. Like
and then little things like course management and things like that.
100%.
Actually, one of the biggest secrets for me to going from 27 to 12 was lose the driver. Lose the
Really?
driver, stay in bounds. Like that was the big change for me, because most of those strokes between 12 and 27 were penalties. It was going out of bounds, going into a hazard, and it was like, look, if I can just hit. I actually went down to like hybrid was my biggest club that I would hit, and it was like 200 down the middle every time. That's way better than 250 and rarely in the fairway.
I mean, it's true. I mean, because it's like, I feel like if you can master your driver, it makes golf a lot easier. But most of us can't, right? Like, and so, I mean, I'm starting to now, and it's like, holy crap, I can get on in 2,
Right.
But
right.
then there's gonna be those holes you hit in the water, or you hit somebody's house, or like whatever. And now it's like, oh yeah, there's a 5, there's an 8, there's a whatever. So I think like,
yeah, that's a good point. It's like, break 20 without a driver, and then break 10 with the driver.
Which you could totally do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I got down to 12 with hybrid being my biggest club.
Yeah, because what do you hit your driver like 200, 225 probably?
Yeah, 2 to 230, and very consistent. And the other thing that's nice about just hitting hybrid is courses are designed where all the traps are at like driver distance, and so you just never
250. They're right there.
Yeah, you're just never there. So you're like, I can miss by a lot and be okay with a 200 club. And where I play, the holes aren't huge, but they're like the distance isn't crazy, but there's tons of OB. So it was like, if I can hit 2 hybrids and get 400 plus yards in 2, like I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's smart. I think a lot of people I think guys especially, we get cocky and we're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit the big dog. And then like you have one guy in your group that can hit really well and the other 3 like don't. And then
Yeah.
you're one of them. And I
Yeah.
think like I used to be so bad at my driver, I'd hit my like 4-iron.
Yeah.
And I was bad at that too. So I was like, well, 4-iron, that's a hard club to hit, 4-iron.
Yeah, it is hard to hit.
But I mean like the hybrid is the magic. But yeah, I played this past weekend and I was like thinking about that too, about like course management. It's like, well, could I drive the green? Well, I'll get close to it, but probably not that accurate. So I'll just hit it on
Yeah.
2. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That and putting. I think putting's key too, though.
Yeah,
Putting's...
for sure.
So you're not a professional golfer. Now, did you grow up in Seattle then?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I started, got my first set of golf clubs when I was 13, $20 from a church rummage sale. The clubs were older than I was. No 2 clubs matched. The woods were made of wood and some crusty old leather bag. And that's how I started. And I was walking the Municipal's Jackson Golf Course in Shoreline and, the Green Lake pitch and putt. That's how I started in golf. And then it wasn't until I think I was 17, senior year of high school, finally bought my first set of clubs, about $300 from Big Five, which is, they don't have that out here in Chicago, but that's I think it's a Pacific Northwest sporting goods store specifically. A brand that doesn't exist anymore. Phase One was the brand. So I bought some set at Big Five and I used it for 20 years before I finally kind of had the thought of like, seems like I deserve an upgrade, like I've played for 20 years,
That's like me, man. Like I had these
yeah.
ping blue eyes I got like from my dad. Bought me used in 1990. I turned 21, right? And I literally had those until about 2 years ago, and I was like, wait a minute, I have a golf website. Like, why am I not playing like newer stuff, right? And then a brand sent me a set of clubs, like custom set, and I gave my old set away to my friend, which I still miss that set of clubs. I wish I still had. And so I don't know. I think most golfers do that though. Like you fix a set of irons at work, like so then
you got the gearheads. You got the gearheads always trying new things. The way we look at the space is, 10% of golfers are beginners, 10% can break 90, and for the 80% in the middle, they need a solid set and they want excuse me,
quality.
They want something that's simple,
cool looking,
reliable,
and
not like crazy expensive. And honestly, all the hype and the and the marketing and the tech, it's confusing and it's intimidating and it's tends to be paralysis by analysis. You're like, I just want some golf clubs, and I need to go through like this full educational process of like, what's a muscle back, what's a blade, what's a cavity back, what's a game.
Oh yeah, it's a whole learning curve.
You're like, can I just get something like? Can't I? Why isn't there a brand that?
What's forgiving? What does forgiving mean? What is like? I mean, that was like me when I started out my website. Like, I was just an average golfer, right? I didn't know all these terminologies and what that meant and why that meant this, and I'm still learning now. Like, if you're not in that world or like taught, schooled, right, whatever education you have or something, you're just I mean, I don't know. I think it's very true. I think most people don't break 90. There's some kind of metric out there. It's like 97% of golfers. What is it?
10% can break 90.
50%. Yeah, 10%, right? Like it's insane.
Yeah, and so and those are the people that are, they're interested in fittings and trying new things and customizing their shafts and their grips and all that stuff, and that's all great. But for the vast majority, I think there's a big need for just keeping it simple.
It's the silent majority. That's what I think.
Totally.
I mean, it is, and we don't think about that. I don't think industry thinks of it like that either. I think they think like, okay, here comes January. Who's coming out their new drivers, right? We're gonna have a new TaylorMade. We're gonna have a new Title. Well, Title's already came out theirs, but like, everyone's gonna come out their new stick, right?
Yeah.
Spin on whatever it is, same
Yeah.
technology, spin to blue.
Well, what's funny about all the hype is people always, journalists, when I first started, everybody's like, oh, I'm really excited to hear about the technology that Stix is going to bring to the table. And, there was always a fun spin to talk to them and be like, yeah, we're not about the latest tech. And they're like,
Like, we don't care. Yeah,
what,
whatever.
what do we talk about? And our thing is keep it simple, make it beautiful, high
Affordable.
quality, yeah, and affordable. We won the Red Dot Award, and we're sold in the Museum of Modern Art. So
That's
like we have
cool.
a different approach here. We believe golf is a simple game that's become far too complicated, and we want to make it accessible to way more people. There's so many barriers to golf, from price to culture to education. And I think there's so many people that want to enjoy the game that just get intimidated by the purchasing process of buying their first set.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, without going too deep yet, like I think what you guys have done is super smart, because the golf club set market, there
Yeah,
was it wasn't cool, right? I mean, you would
right,
have like your Wilson set, you would
right.
have like these brands that just made a set, and they made like 15 different colors, and they're all ugly and boring, and they're out.
Yeah,
And like, but they sold like hotcakes. But people don't realize that. Like, people buy sets more than they buy like a set of irons, right? And I think like for you to come into the space and be like, look, we have a cool looking set that's affordable, that like
yeah.
is not a name brand sporting good company's been around for a million years, right? Like,
Yeah, and it's also a premium set. Like you said, most, boxed sets is kind of a swear word in our world, right? Like we don't like that term because that typically means cheap
lesser
crap.
value, cheaper stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and the truth is, you know, Rick Shields took our driver head to head with the Callaway Epic, and our driver outperformed the Callaway Epic. So it's not that you have big brands who make a box set and it's kind of like their JV stuff, right? So we are one of the only like high quality sets. Like it's the best stuff.
It's a
Yes,
premium set.
it's a
Like, that's
premium
just
set.
like, which it was a whole, which no one has done yet, right? Because it was the big boys were not going to do that. Now they came out, like, it's interesting because in the last couple of years, like Cobra came out with their set, like, they were selling at Costco. I can't think what it's called, but like,
Yeah,
everyone's also competing, right? Like, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should have a set that like isn't, a box set. Like, I don't know. I think
right,
it's, but you did that before they did, because they
right.
weren't doing that.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of the big boys respond
Competition.
to what we're doing.
But I feel
Oh,
it's fake in a way, though, because I feel like it's just like them trying to catch their tail, right? Like,
yeah,
oh,
and that's what happens, right? It's just like when Harry's and Dollar Shave Club disrupted the razor industry, or when Casper disrupted the mattress industry, or story after story. Uh, the bigger brands, they try to respond, and many times they can't do it under their own brand, or they get in their own way, or their model's just not set up for it. And so that's kind of the hope as a disruptive company, is that you can move fast enough, and have a competitive advantage in agility, that you can come do things a very different way, and the behemoths struggle to pivot fast enough, or even if they do, people are like, well, that's weird.
yeah, like
That's
you've
weird
had
that
a
that
million years
brand's
to do
doing that.
that.
Well, even like that's a weird thing for that brand to do. Like I've seen some brands come out with sets, or like change their pricing models, and it's a little bit dilutive to that brand, and so they're kind of like shooting themselves in the foot. So I think that's the point: is come in and shake things up, and and hopefully have the competitive advantage that, like, hey, who is Stix? Oh, Stix is the premium set company. Like, that's what they do. You want a premium set, get a set of Stix. If you go get a set of big brand ABC, you're getting their JV set. You're not getting their
Yeah,
premium set.
automatically it, because if, like, I'll use Cobra for example. Like, okay, you're gonna spend $500 or $600 on a Cobra set at Costco. Fantastic set, right? Don't get me wrong. But like, but as a consumer, you think, well, the Cobra driver is $500. So what's up with
Right.
the set? I mean,
Right.
like, there's about $2,000 laying on the table here. So like,
Right.
and the funny thing is,
What corners did they cut? What did they leave out?
Yeah, what did they cut? Exactly. And when it comes down to it, and you're just gonna find out that they didn't really cut much, right? It's all a game, man. And that's like, I don't know. I think for me, I'm an outsider, so like I don't really care. Like it's just we're not dumb. Consumers are not dumb.
I think being the outsider is my other advantage here, right? Like you asked when you jumped on the call, you said, "Hey, are you a professional golfer?" And most golf companies are started by some really good golfer. You're wearing the Travis Matthew shirt. He was he played golf. He played in junior golf tournaments with Tiger Woods in the early days. Now, Travis Brasher, the founder of Travis Matthew, he he didn't really want it to be a golf brand. He wants Travis Matthew to be a lifestyle brand. And I think he's done a good job of getting it there.
He also got $100 million for his company.
Yeah, 120 or 140.
Yeah. Something like that.
But yeah, most of these brands are started by golfers that think like that 10% that break 90. And they think that that's the whole world. That's all they see. And that's how they see it. And that's, we've had to swim upstream against that kind of mentality with certain retailers or partners or the industry at large. And I think that's an advantage for us is I don't live in that world. That's not my golf story. My golf story is municipals and simulators and playing a handful of times a year. It's essentially casual golf. And I'm our target demographic. And I think we've found a way to talk to that same group because we get them.
Because you connect with the consumer, like with the real person that like represents the majority of golfers out there, right?
And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had since we started this where I just kind of, do the elevator pitch. You're like, yeah, we're trying to create golf clubs that are simple, beautiful, affordable, high quality for the average golfer, somebody who's not a beginner and doesn't break 90. And people are like, that's me 90% of the time. Now, you always find these situations where somebody does break 90 and much of the time they get it too. They're like, oh, totally. Not everybody needs this super elitist experience over here. Most people just need exactly what you're doing. And that's the training professionals saying that. That's the scratch golfers saying that. So even people who are on that side, they get it. And much of the time, even though they have some custom fitted set, if they go play around with Stix, they shoot the same score. We actually had an investor.
It's not the club, it's the player.
Yeah, we had an investor who said, look, I've got a $5,000 set of PXGs. If I can take a set of Stix out and shoot the same score, I'll invest. So he took a set of Stix out, played 2 rounds, shot the same score, invested.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a good story right there. Okay, so you grew up in Seattle, and then you went to college. And where'd you go to college?
Shoreline Community College. So I am an undereducated entrepreneur. I just got after it. Got out of high school, went to community college, starting my own businesses and working at different companies. In Seattle, I ran a creative studio for about 10 years, doing freelance creative branding, interactive software development. Until
you're probably really smart. You're probably really creative and really smart.
We'll see.
Like the other day, I was at my son's little league game, or not little league, but like some fall baseball game, and a dad said, "Hey, my son said he wants to be a YouTuber when he grows up. Like his dad's a doctor, right?" And I was like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, that's really cool. He's like, no, it's not stupid. He's like, you should be, And I was like, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I wish they had this 25 years ago when I was a kid, right? I wish I was in my 40s doing this. Like this, like I feel like creativity is so undervalued in society that like, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty educated. I know I'm educated, but like,
I love your story.
I'm not even doing it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I feel like it doesn't matter what I always ask, like, oh, what would you do? Like some people, go to college. Some people don't. It's like, you don't really have, like, I told my kids, I'm like, you do whatever you want. Just do something, right?
Well, a lot of people go to college and don't use it, and a lot of people don't go to college.
We all do that. Like, how many
so
people do you know that went to college and got their like degree, actually do what the degree is about? Like nobody, unless like honestly.
a lot of them have worked for me. So
yeah, exactly.
I tell my kids that I'm like I got an associate's degree, but I'm hiring PhDs. So it's you can you can make the most of what you've got. You can get a big education and use it or not. You can get no education and do something or not. Bill Gates dropped out. Zuckerberg dropped out. I think when you got the entrepreneurial itch, you can't sit in the classroom and learn something that's already outdated.
It's all outdated, dude. All of that. It's all like that's all archaic.
When you want to be on the bleeding edge, it's hard to read out of a textbook.
Try doing law. Like that's like ancient. Like there's cases we're reading about like from the 1800s. I'm like, what does it do with anything? Like,
yeah.
But,
hey,
so
on your YouTube story, are you familiar with Garrett Clark?
I know the name.
GM Golf, good.
Yeah, Garrett. Yeah.
Yeah, so we worked with him early on, and I met his dad.
He's massive, dude. He's like the number one. Like he's freaking huge.
Yeah, he's gotten big. But his dad had said, he was in college and he wanted to drop out and do this whole YouTube thing. And his dad was like, listen, if you can prove to me that you can make, more than 60 grand a year, then I'll let you drop out. And he went for it and he made like 60 grand the next month or something. And then off to the races.
It's no joke. And now they're about, Good Good's about to get hit 100 or hit a million. So, like things are just different now. And I feel like if you're creative, then go for it. And like, actually,
for sure. And you know what? It's all those people that all the brands need to make their businesses work. You got brands need the content creators and the influencers. It's the new advertising. And it's the big brands, living off their the audiences that they've created. Like that's what the world's becoming.
Yeah, true audience.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love this world. I think it's hard. Don't get me wrong. YouTube is the hardest of all the platforms by 1,000%. There's so many factors that are, algorithm and everything else. But I think like it's the funnest. But if you had told me like 5 years ago I'd be doing this, I'd be like, yeah, right. But
so a lawyer.
Yeah, like for reals. Like I still am. I'm just not practicing. But yeah, it's crazy. So when did you first have the idea for Stix?
It was 2019. I was golfing out here in the west suburbs of Chicago with some guys from the venture studio I was a partner at. So like rewind a little bit, we talked about I did a creative studio in Seattle for 10 years. And then one of my clients recruited me out to co-found a tech startup with him in 2012. So 2012 to 2018, I was a CTO technical co-founder of a mobile advertising platform. And then in 2018, I moved out here to Chicago, joined a venture studio where I was working with early stage entrepreneurs and internal innovation groups at enterprises, helping them create new products, ideate, validate, iterate, launch, grow, scale. Got a few reps at that. And then as I was hanging out with some of my venture studio buddies, golfing, we realized like we're all using pretty old stuff, but we all also make pretty good money and can afford kind of whatever we want in golf, but we're just not convinced about buying any of this hype, right? When we go shopping for golf clubs, we're all kind of, it feels so archaic compared to everything else. We're all hungry for kind of the Kickstarter, the innovator, the disruptor of golf, and it's just not there. And we also find that it's like, it's complicated, it's confusing. We don't know what the heck to buy. Do we buy it piecemeal? Like we're all kind of floundering in this process together. And we say,
you don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I'm going to buy a driver. Well, how do I really choose between like the five big guys? Like for me, it's just going to be style. Like whichever one looks the best, that's the one I'm going to buy. Like if it was, I don't care what I'm going to spend. I'm going to go find the best looking driver because I'm going to assume they pretty much all perform the same. Um, that's how I would have shopped. But I didn't want to spend that much. So then you're like, okay, who am I buying used? Whatever. But we say, what we really want, I want a full upgrade. I'm using a 20-year-old set. I don't want to piecemeal this thing. I just want to like hit buy now once on something and be done with it and know that it like matches. It's all awesome.
It looks cool in my bag. It's not all
Yeah,
like.
and it's not confusing. Like that's what if we all had that option, we all would have hit buy now. We'd be done. But instead, we're like floundering in this super confusing landscape of what is golf equipment. So we were kind of like, well, why doesn't this exist? And we thought maybe somebody's tried it and it doesn't work. Maybe the big brands know nobody wants that. We're kind of convincing ourselves of this, or at least wondering, why is there? I can go buy a starter set for like $250, right? Like we talked about, $250, $500, and after that, I got to go spend like $3,000. So there's like this almost 10x price gap that you're like, how does that make any sense? That's the leap I'm supposed to make. I don't want to buy a starter set. I've been playing for 20 years and I don't want to spend $3,000. So like, what are my options? So one of my co-founders is a world-class industrial designer. His name is Kyle Buzzard. And so he had fun for like a day designing just an aesthetically different golf club. And he had a lot of fun with that. And we basically took some renderings and with my background in branding, we put together kind of a name and a logo quickly. And we basically put forward an experiment of here's a cool looking club and a brand and a price. Like, is this interesting to anyone? You ever heard of the site pickfu.com?
No, what is that?
Pickfu.com. It's a digital focus group site that's great. You can basically put up 2 to 3 images, put it in front of an audience, and get feedback. And so you can use this to like, get feedback from people on an ad campaign or a logo or taglines, whatever you want. You can get feedback on it from either a totally broad audience or you can do some demographic targeting through the platform. But we put up 3 images. This is our first test. This is kind of like day one of the idea. And it was a strata set for $250, right? So we kind of showed like brand, product, price. And then we showed like a tailor-made set of irons for like, I think $800 or $799. And then we did our day-old brand and our design at a price point in the middle. And we're just like, will this capture anyone? Will we validate day one that like nobody wants something in the middle? People want starter and they want high and they want like professional level gear. Nobody wants anything in the middle. And we captured 25% of that broad audience. They were just like, love the brand, love the design. This price makes sense. I don't want to pay too much. I'm not a beginner. We're like, okay, that's something, right? We could have learned, like we could have captured everybody and that would have been a learning. We could have captured nobody and that would have been a learning. But like little by little over time, this concept kept being validated. So we kept running test after test, refining the audience, refining the product, the brand, the pricing, till we got to a point where we're like, okay, seems like we have some product market fit here. We found a group of people that want what we're talking about. So that was in 2019, and it was early 2020 that the PGA Tour shut down and golf courses shut down because of COVID.
So everybody started playing golf.
Well, not yet. So in early 2020, it's all shut down. We're like, probably not the best timing to launch a new golf brand. So we ice the project, we sit on it, and then come into spring of 2020 and summer of 2020, PGA Tour is the first professional sport back on TV. Golf courses are now open. It's one of the few socially distanced activities you can do and golf's on fire. And so we said, okay, let's dust off that validation project we were doing, and let's breathe some life into this thing and see what happens. And so we put together a team. We kind of revamped the brand with some PR, social, some reviews. We placed an order with the manufacturer we've been working with to launch September 1, 2020. And since that day, the momentum and the reach we've gotten has far exceeded expectations. Stix has absolutely been on fire. That first year was out of control. We got reviewed by Rick Shields in that first 4 months, right? We launched in September. We got a review from Rick Shields like 3 months later. We raised money for the next 2 years and kept building the team and building up inventory. We even launched a V2 product in the middle of that first year. So it's been a crazy ride.
Did you just send it to Rick Shields and like, hey, check these out? That's what I heard he does.
Yeah. You can't. That's the only way he works. You just send him stuff, and
no promises. Yeah,
like absolutely no promises. Yeah, you can't pay him to do a review. He does what he wants, but he gave us
that's the only way to really do it, man. Like, dude, that's the way to do it, because like essentially, if it's paid for, then how's that not biased? I mean, automatically, like, I mean, you're not the only brand that I've talked to that sent stuff to Rick and that he's reviewed because it's been out of the ordinary, right? And essentially that validation right out of the gate, 1 million+ views on YouTube, solidifies doubt amongst the naysayers pretty quick.
Yeah, and that was a big deal. Credibility as a new brand has been a big factor in the last 2 years. But press reviews, like you said, Gabe did a review as well. That all adds up. And then the customer reviews. So 2 years later, we're sitting in a very different position with all that positivity behind the brand. We're sold at PGA Tour Superstore and Shields. We're sold online at the Museum of Modern Art. We're sold at Target.com. So all those things kind of add up to a lot of credibility, which is, that's what you don't have day one, which surprisingly we did very well day one, but those have certainly helped. And relationships like that will continue to help as Stix grows.
So did you guys design the clubs yourselves? Like, is this design like a patented design, or is this?
We actually do have a design patent on the iron and the distance and putter, all of it. So kind of like a distinct, the kind of the two-tone black and the shape of the irons and such. It's not a technical patent, it's a design patent. So it's about
it's how it looks. Design's like how it looks. And
and like I said, one of my co-founders is a world-class industrial designer, so he's led the design of the clubs, and then we've worked with different technical engineers on the performance of the clubs over the last couple of years.
So once I mean, and so like literally in a little over 2 years, you guys have like exploded, like essentially. Who would you say is like your competitor? The big companies that have their box sets, or would you say like, I don't really know of a competitor, really, to be quite honest?
Yeah.
Or are there new competitors coming up that I don't know about? Maybe possibly they're like trying to copy what you're doing.
There's a few that are trying to do something similar. But you could consider anyone with a box set to be a competitor. You could consider a bigger brand that's starting to package their stuff together into sets to be a competitor. But I don't think anybody's doing exactly what we're doing. Like I said, I think people are aware of what we're doing, and you start to see people doing some things. Like even PXG, since we started, is now offering some packaged sets. They'll put some things together, and And then you've got if you go to PGA Tour Superstore, you'll see us next to a bunch of other package
Wilson
sets.
and
And even TaylorMade RBZ, and there's other companies doing sets. I think, and I think they're competitive in the sense that we're fighting for the same market share. We're fighting for people who want to make a simple purchase for everything at once. I think where we differentiate is in the brand itself.
Is the Stix set, is that an adult set only, or is there a set made for kids? Or have you thought about that?
We offer our clubs in 5 heights and 3 flexes to try to accommodate as many player styles as we can.
Very
smart. So we don't make a ladies set, we don't make a senior set, we don't make a junior set. We believe that there's all kinds of heights and strengths and player types and experience levels of men, women, junior, senior. So we want to get you clubs that fit without a complicated fitting. So you got some women will need a -1 inch A-flex, and some women will need a +1 stiff, because there's all kinds of women out there.
I think it's really smart, actually, that you didn't pigeonhole yourself and to be like, we make a senior set, we make a blah 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 set, we make because essentially you're gonna have all these sets laying around that don't fit, that you don't sell because there's not enough people out there that want to buy that set. Essentially, you're like, hey, these are our flexes, and style, right? Let's call it whatever.
Yep.
And then, do you fit in there? Probably somewhere you would fit in there. You would know best because you're the person buying it, whether it be a man, a woman, old, young, child, whatever. And I think it's brilliant. That's really smart. Instead of you just curtailed having excess inventory on stuff that doesn't even matter, so it looks good on a website.
Yeah, we always say there's no ladies' iPhone, right? There's no senior iPhone.
True. That's very true.
It's people want simple, forgiving, great looking, high quality, and we don't do juniors just because we don't go small enough, but what we like to say, teens. So we also like to not consider ourselves a starter set. I say I want to be your first upgrade or your long overdue upgrade. I'm not going to compete with Strata. I don't want to be in a race to the bottom with the lowest end sets. Hey, you're new to golf, you want to try it out, you're probably going to go spend $250 on a starter set, unless you can stomach,
Yeah, but that says complete crap, though. I mean, honestly, if you're gonna pay $250, you might as well buy used clubs at Goodwill and put a set together for $100. I mean,
and I'm happy to be your first upgrade from that, right? And I'm happy to be your first upgrade, like you said, from Dad's clubs, from your hand-me-down clubs, from my
or gifts, right? Clubs. What do I buy my kid because he's now turning 16? I don't want to spend $2,500. Buying a set of clubs is very daunting, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying earlier, before you started your company, if you wanted to upgrade or if you wanted to buy something, the first question is, what do I buy? Because there's always the new spin on whatever's coming out. And then, I mean, iron sets are not cheap. And then they start at $800 essentially, and go all the way up to whatever, $5,000. And drivers are at $500. So you're talking, if you bought a new set of clubs, at minimum you're talking over $1,000.
Oh yeah.
And a new set looks nice, right? Now you can buy the cheaper stuff that's under $400, $300, the Strata, whatever, the Wilson, nothing against these sets.
Yeah, it's really closer to $3,000, like you said. If your irons are almost $1,000 and your drivers $600, you're at $1,500 between those.
Yeah, you don't have wedges and you don't have a hybrid.
Putter,
you probably don't have fairway wood. You might. I don't really know, but I doubt it.
Yep. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's very wise the way you guys did that, where you position yourself for where you're at, both price wise, but also how you're not stuck being just a lady set, just a men's set, just a senior set, just a child set, because then you're no different than Wilson or somebody else. They really make the orange box set is for kids that are 6 to 8 years old, and that's brilliant. I mean,
thanks, man.
Good play.
And what's cool is we've found that you know, we have an equivalent female audience to the golf industry without making a ladies set, right? So 25% of our customers are still women when there is no ladies set. And after talking to women, you know, that what we found most of them saying is like, these are beautiful. I love these black clubs. That's what I want. I don't want this pink,
they're elegant looking,
pink and white set. Yeah,
with
and
pink
then when
handles. Like, give me, they're not.
Yeah, and then when you talk to more experienced female players, they're like, I had to stop using ladies clubs in junior high because ladies flex is a joke for me because I'm playing.
Yeah,
I can hit it further than you, right? I can hit it further than most men. So don't tell me to buy
stereotypes of the sport. It's just what it is. You know, I think it's an old industry that is taking time to refine itself. You know, like I always feel like that. So
yeah, so we're excited to be a part of that.
So what's coming out like for you guys in the next like 6 months? Anything cool or new?
You know, we're trying to keep it simple, right? We don't want to hype a new release every year necessarily, because there's not a lot to hype, right? Like when you look at all the hype that's happening, even like carbon wood, you're like, that's cool, and maybe you spent millions of dollars on that new technology, but at the end of the day, the USGA guidelines don't permit a ball to bounce off a face any faster than it does. Like golf technology could do more, but it's not allowed to. So what is the advancement? It's nonsense. The ball will not leave the face faster. Yeah, the ball will not. The biggest opportunities for gains in technology is in the ball and in the shaft at this point. Because
100%.
The head is
because they've already. I don't think people realize that. I think they're already limited on the head. They can't do anything else to it at this point. They can put some bullshit on there and make a different color and be like, oh, it does whatever. That's not gonna change what it was last year because it does the same technology. Like,
and they'll sell it as jailbreak technology, breakthrough innovation, groundbreaking upgrade, you know, and you're like,
carbon wood. Like, what does that even mean? Like, but it's red. I mean, oh my God, don't get me started on that. It's so cool.
So anyways, one thing, as far as what's coming new for us in the next 6 months, it's about reaching more people with the same message, right? We're still young, we're still relatively small, and so it's more about building the brand, building the community, getting the message out there, and getting more of these clubs into people's hands so that they can experience the game at a new level and enjoy it without all this process of intimidation and confusion to get into your first upgrade.
I mean, I think it's brilliant. So when somebody buys a stick set, right, they can go through and they can pick like the shaft they want, if it's left or right handed, the shaft length. Now it's on the site, and I think the largest you can do is +1, right, on shaft length. And then they can pick like the color and the set size. But when they buy a set, though, like, you know, what doesn't a set include? I guess if you were to buy a complete set, what does a complete set not include?
Yeah,
it sounds like.
So yeah, like you said, you got height and flex options to get something that fits. Then you got the black and silver finish options, which people have requested, and people have been a fan of the silver. When you buy the set only, you can do the bundle, which comes with bag and head covers, and then what you're not getting is also addable pre-checkout, which is you can get the glove, you can get the towel, you can get balls, and then there's going to be a few more products that we're launching for holiday in partnership with some other brands. So like you and I talked about on this podcast, is it's cool to see kind of the ecosystem of founders and brands in the space and starting to see how they can play well together. So we'll be selling some additional products that we feel are on brand for Stix customers. Like I said, when you go through the shopping process and you're like, I want this all to like it's, you know, us being big on design, it's like I want a bag and a setup that's cohesive, and this stuff looks good together. So we're trying to do some curation and put forward a set of products that we think is a nice package for Stix customers. So that's something you'll see for holiday, and that's something we'll probably see more of going into next year as well.
Yeah, like collaboration / cohesiveness with other products that are not just golf clubs.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, quite honestly, I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. I mean,
Thanks, Paul.
smart move on the whole like design process and not having to, you know, be pigeonholed into a style or a design based on your gender or whatever, you know, age.
Yeah, thank you.
So where can people find Stix?
Yeah, you can get us at stix.golf, STIX.golf. And I think today we're in the middle of we got a two-day sale on irons and wedges, 30% off, 15% off full sets. And yeah, that's the best place to find us, right through the main website. You can find us on social as well, Stix Golf Gear on Insta, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. You guys need to check out Stix. Like this is legit. If you're looking for an upgrade to what you have or just a really good set of clubs, like this is the way to go instead of having to spend thousands of dollars on a set or spending a couple $100 but having an ugly set that isn't that great. Like Stix is like played the right card. And I think like, you know, if you're looking for a really quality set that, you know, is affordable but looks cool too, that you're not embarrassed about using, then this is it. So that's awesome. I'm really happy to finally get to meet you and have you on the show. And I will see you guys in the next episode.
Thanks, Paul.